Game projects developed by fans come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. There are fan ports, fan games, and fan mods, but there is one form of development that I feel does not get enough attention, and that is ROM hacks. As the name implies, ROM hacks aim to change things within the original game's code. In a lot of ways, they can be thought of as mods, but game hacks differ because they are specifically aimed at games that were on consoles. Some of these ROM hacks can even work on the original hardware. When it comes to ROM hacks, there are really endless possibilities of what a game hack can entail, and in this video, I'll be going over the different types of hacks that are available. Before I get into explaining the different ROM hacks, you might be wondering where you can get these hacks in the first place. ROMhacking.net, to my knowledge, has been the biggest community when it comes to accessing ROM hacks, but unfortunately, at this time of writing, the site will no longer be taking new submissions and are now only focusing on related news. At the moment, all the submitted ROM hacks can still be downloaded, and should they no longer become available, you will still be able to access them on the Internet Archive. There is another ROM hacking site that looks to be continuing what ROM hacking has done, known as romhacks.org, and it looks like it may be the go-to place for ROM hacks moving forward. In most cases, you will be required to patch the original game through an application, usually specified by the creator. It is always recommended that you have a backup of the original game before patching to ensure you still have a working copy, as things can go wrong. In my opinion, the most popular game hacks are translation hacks. While it was always possible to export games that only released in a specific region, in most cases there were no translations available for the game. In other cases, because of time constraints and other factors, certain things tend to get lost in translation. These are where translation hacks truly shine. Not too long ago, I did a playthrough of Chrono Trigger using a special hack that improved on K-What's-Its original translation. The translation aimed to be a more literal interpretation of the original Japanese script, and as such you'll find Japanese honorifics and certain English translations to be a bit off at times. While it has been said that the original translation of Chrono Trigger was not bad by any means, having a literal interpretation had me curious about the retranslation, and if you're a fan of the game, you may also have the same curiosity as well, so I did want to give it a mention. A few months back, a wonderful individual who goes by the name of Deuce released an English translation of the Samurai Shodown Tales of the Bushido, better known as Samurai Shodown RPG. In addition to the translation, it also includes a choice between the Neo Geo CD version or the PS1 Saturn version of the Element system. I've been waiting for a very long time to see just how well this popular fighting game series translated into the world of RPGs, and without this hack, I wouldn't have even dared to try. Some of you may remember the Angry Video Game Nerds episode featuring a game that I personally owned as a child, Back to the Future Part 2 and 3. When he unearthed the fact that there was a game that released for the SNES, the game was only available in Japan, and that it was actually good, I'd like to believe it was a collective shock to anyone who experienced the first game on Nintendo. I honestly never imagined being able to play the game with a full English translation, and I certainly recommend checking this one out, especially if you went through the traumatic experience of playing the abysmal NES game. Finally, I wanted to highlight the hidden gem released on console that only made it into a few regions. The console is Zeebo, and the game is an incredible remake of Double Dragon. Despite the game being fairly easy to navigate in its original language, which I should mention still does have some of it in the hack, having an English translation definitely helped a great deal, especially when it comes to learning how to play. Outside of translations, there is nothing that creates more excitement than hacks that add more content or a new original game. In a lot of ways, it's almost like having a glimpse of what could have been if DLC was a thing back then. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, Symphony of the Night is an all-time favorite of mine, so when I found out about Rondo of the Night, a hack where you play as Richter Belmont, needless to say, I was all in. While it is true that Richter was in fact playable in the original game, it was very limited, having none of the RPG elements that you got to enjoy with a la carte. Rondo of the Night changes all of that. Having completed this game multiple times in the past, I definitely have to admit this hack offers a unique experience and even feels like it's more of a challenge than the original game, something I don't personally mind. But if you do mind, there is an easy mode. While we are on the subject of Castlevania, what if I told you just recently a game was released that has taken some inspiration from the series and features Mario? Yes, I said features Mario. A hack of Super Mario World, Castlevania aims to give you the NES difficulty of old, where you'll be forced to avoid instant death obstacles and encounter some recognizable enemies from both games. Just getting through the first level was a bit of an exercise, so if you want a new platform to sink your teeth into, look no further than Castlevania. Final Fantasy VI introduced me to the world of RPGs, and because of this, it will forever be my personal favorite in the series. After completing the game years ago, I always knew that replaying the game was inevitable, but I didn't imagine having a new experience to go with that playthrough. Divergent Paths is a hack that asks a simple question. What if the developers had the opportunity to revise the story? While this change in narrative doesn't rearrange the overall plot, I would still say the adjustments made in this game are pretty significant, especially the change that makes a certain general a playable character. If you're looking for an excuse to replay Final Fantasy VI, I definitely have to recommend that you give this hack a try, as it may surprise you in ways you never thought it could. Unlike present-day game development in the past, once a game hit retail, that was pretty much the game you got, bugs, performance issues, and all. Who would have thought years later a dedicated group of fans would fix these issues and also do some enhancements as well? Shinobi 3 is one of my favorites on the Sega Genesis, and I never thought it needed improvements until I experienced this enhancement hack. The biggest change of this hack adds 6-button controller support, and it unearthed a mechanic I never once used while playing this game. Using the additional buttons takes some getting used to, but moving forward, I can't see myself playing the game any other way. For those looking for an additional challenge, there is also an option to lock the ability to throw shurikens. Road Rash 2 is another favorite of mine for the Sega Genesis, but I have to be honest, it hasn't aged very well, and there is one reason for it: bad performance. A special hack has come to the rescue to help with improving the frame rate of this very beloved title, and I have to say it really has made the experience much better. The hack also provides a frame rate counter so you can actually see just how well things are running. I do suggest you take advantage of emulation on this one. I personally used RetroArch Genesis Plus GX Core, which allowed me to overclock the emulated CPU. Another enhancement I've noticed with ROM hacks for Sega Genesis have to do with colors. The Battletoads Double Dragon crossover is one known game that receives the specific hack, and while I feel like this is going to be one where your specific preference is going to play a major role in whether you feel like this hack is something worth considering, in my opinion, it's pretty neat that the option is now available. So those are all the ROM hacks I wanted to showcase in today's video. It has to be said that such labors of love are greatly appreciated. I would have never imagined that years later I would be able to replay my favorite games or play a popular game that never got an English translation. What are some of your favorite ROM hacks? Please let me know in the comment box below. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to leave a like, and maybe consider subscribing, as I will have more videos highlighting fan projects like this in the future. For now, this is the Core, your entertainment techie, signing out.